So being back on Booktube was not a part of my 2025 bingo card, but nonetheless, here we are. If you have been a long-term subscriber since 2018, 2019, hi, I'm back, I'm here. I don't know how many of you guys are still here or still active. I'm sure many of you are not, but if you are, hello, I'm very glad to be back. I'm very glad to be here. If you know me from my book talk or bookstagram or really any other corner of the internet where I have been a little bit more recently, hello and welcome to my little corner of the internet where I originally got my start making book content. So while I am very upset about the reasons that I am restarting my account, that really kind of kicked my butt into gear, I am very excited to be here nonetheless and to be back because ultimately I have really missed Booktube. I have missed making this long form content again, and I am just ready to be back and see if I can keep up with this again and kind of make consistent content. So as you can imagine, I am a very different person than I was 5-6 years ago, and I know Booktube itself has even just changed drastically from a few years ago. So I thought it would be a fantastic idea to do the Booktube Newbie tag again and kind of re-answer these questions and reintroduce myself. So the first question is, why did you start this channel? Or in my case, why did I restart this channel? And I kind of touched on that a little bit, but I will go into a little bit more detail. As many of you know, TikTok, a bill passed to ban TikTok for US citizens, and it kind of went dark for approximately 14 hours and then came back. And I had already prepared for it to be gone. I already kind of downloaded my content. I kind of prepared for where I would go next. I grieved that loss. And now that it's back, the way it has returned and the circumstances around that have just left a really sour taste in my mouth. And I have just, for my own sake, I don't feel comfortable posting content on TikTok again and being a part of that platform. I just really don't see a future where it is the same platform that we know and love, just considering everything surrounding it. And I can't do the back and forth, whether it will stay for now or be gone in the future. I can't do that. So that is the main reason that kind of pushed me to start making Booktube content again and restart this channel. So question number 2 is, what are some unique things you can bring to Booktube? And I'm gonna have a very similar answer to my original Booktube Newbie tag. I don't know if I'm going to bring anything super unique or creative to this platform again, but I am just hoping that me being myself and me being passionate about books and talking about books and making content is just enough to bring in the right people and to keep those people around. Like, that's all I really want. I have never really strived for a super huge platform. If I have a handful of people that like my content and consistently interact and I consistently interact with them, like, I'm happy and content with that. So I'm just hoping being myself is the unique thing that I can bring to Booktube. So the next question is, what are you most excited about for this channel? And I think I'm just genuinely excited to be making long form content again, because I absolutely adored my time on Book Talk. I loved the community I made there. I love the fact that it got me back into reading after like a multiple year-long slump. I love that it just kind of jump-started me back into making book content. But regardless of there being an ability to make longer videos, there is still a pressure of being as quick as you can and kind of putting as much as you can in a short amount of time. And I just like yapping. I like talking. I like taking my time. So I'm just excited for that, and I'm just excited to make this YouTube channel just my own little corner of the internet again and kind of just do whatever I want. The next question is, why do you love reading? And this is a very loaded question. There is a lot of reasons why I love reading, but I think the biggest thing and the biggest reason why I read so much is, I'm just a lover of stories. I have always loved stories and storytelling in whatever format, whether that is books, movies, plays, music, anything like that. I am just so fascinated in how stories are told and all of that. And the second reason, and I think the reason why I am so fascinated in storytelling, is just seeing and understanding how creators and authors can invoke the emotions that they do in their books, through their characters, through their world building, all of that. Like, I just love reading a book and experiencing such strong emotions, whether that is joy, whether that is heartbreak, any emotions. It's so fascinating to me how authors and writers can just invoke those emotions and why that is and how that happens. And it's just very interesting to me. So I both am fascinated in how it happens, and I am both just, I love experiencing that. So the next question is, what book or series got you into reading? And so again, I'm going to rephrase this as to what books and series got me back into reading. For most of my life, I have been an avid reader. I have just always been reading. And after I kind of stopped making booktube content, I, for like 3 or 4 years, was just in a very long reading slump where I barely picked up like one book in a year. I would read a couple maybe, and that was just a huge drastic drop from my easily like 80 to 100 books that I would read. So there are 2 series that really pushed me back into reading full time, and that kind of pushed me into making book content again. The first one was the Hunger Games series. I never read this when it first was very popular. I was never a big fan of dystopian back in that time, but I just really needed to read it. I decided that I really needed to read it, that I really wanted to read it. It felt like a great time to read it, and I devoured this. I completely understand why this was so popular back when it first came out, why it's still so popular. And the second series is A Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. So this is actually one of her original book series. I read Strange the Dreamer first back when I had this channel. It was very popular when it was first released. Absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite books and book series, and so I decided to give this a try because I've been wanting to for a while, and I knew I loved Laini Taylor's writing, and I was 100% correct. This was 100% the right choice. I will say that the first book, A Daughter of Smoke and Bone, it's a weird book. It kind of took me a second to get into. Like, the vibes are very weird and different, but I was just completely hooked. And then just the second and third book, I absolutely devoured and loved. So the next question is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? So again, I have not been on booktube for a while, so I don't know who a lot of the newer booktube creators are, but I do have a handful of channels that I absolutely loved when I was back on here in 2018, 2019. And I don't know how many of them are still posting content consistently. I know a few of them still are. So I guess my question would just be, how are you guys? How have you been? So the next question is, what challenges do you think will be the hardest to overcome with making this channel? And I think the biggest challenge that I am going to have is kind of relearning how to make quality content again, how to kind of have a good setup, have good lighting, because I know this lighting is not the best, how to edit well, and all of that stuff, and just relearning all of the things about YouTube in general, because there is a lot to learn and I have forgotten a large chunk of it. So I think that will be a little bit of a challenge to kind of relearn all of that. So the next question is, when did you start reading? And again, I have been a very avid reader for as long as I can remember, but when I restarted reading was probably around 2 years ago. The next question is, where do you read? And I most commonly read in my room on my bed, but I also listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I mainly listen to audiobooks on my drive to and from work. And the last question is, what kind of books do you like to read? And so, true to my younger self, I still do love fantasy. I think fantasy will always be one of my favorite genres, but I feel like I have kind of expanded my reading a lot more than I did when I had first originally started and first had this channel. So I love fantasy, but a newer genre that I'm absolutely loving, or more, it's more of a subgenre, is cozy fantasy. I absolutely adore cozy fantasy. I will eat that up every single time. I love it. I also love contemporary romances a lot more than I did. I used to like pretty much solely read YA, and I still do read a lot of YA, but I have been reading a lot more adult romances and romantasy. And with all of those genres, I have been doing my best to read more diversely within all of those, more BIPOC authors and characters and more queer authors and characters. Also trying to read a lot more disability representation. So any of that fits into those genres, I absolutely love. Last year, my goal was to read more queer literature, which I absolutely did succeed in. About like 80% of my reading was queer literature. And so this year, I am trying to read a lot more BIPOC authors and characters and kind of diversify my reading that way, as I did not do a very good job of that last year. So if you enjoy those kinds of books as well, I think you will really enjoy the restart of this channel. So that is all of the questions for the Booktube Newbie tag. I hope you enjoyed getting to know me a little bit more, and I am hoping that I can continue to make consistent content again here. I am very happy and excited to be back despite the circumstances of why I am back. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you stick around.